Have you ever sat down to try and create something in your business and you found yourself scrolling on social media or organizing emails that you suddenly feel are very important, or doing some other task instead of what you initially intended to sit down to do? Well, if that sounds like an experience you've had, I've certainly had it, then this episode is definitely for you. This happens to many entrepreneurs, and I guess one of the main things that I want listeners and viewers to understand is this doesn't mean that you're lazy or unmotivated, but our brain is often trying to protect us from the uncertainty of how what we're going to create is going to be perceived or received by others. This is a very normal experience, especially if you're a creative. What are we going to talk about in this episode? I value your time. I know it's precious, so I like to give listeners an expectation of what we're going to talk about in the episode. So we're going to be talking about understanding why it feels hard to start. And then we're going to talk about some mindset shifts that are going to help you move through that invisible barrier and get that creative flow going. And then some simple tools that are going to help you when you find that resistance and to help you start creating. So let's talk first about that invisible barrier. Why does it exist? And it is definitely real, although we all can't see it. It's often created by things like perfectionism, which we talk about so much. And I'll leave a link to a free download that I have that helps you move through perfectionism if you think that's something that you're dealing with. You just feel like whatever that you're going to create has to be quote unquote perfect or very good, so others perceive it as so too. You could have decision fatigue, which so many of us are suffering from, especially as parents. We're having to make decisions all the time. How many times are we asked a day, what are we having for a certain meal? What's for dinner? What's for breakfast? What's for lunch? So all of those decisions we're making throughout the day really truly add up. And when it comes time to sit down and create something for our own business and in our own life, that fatigue can really impact us. And then we also have a fear of what we're going to create may not matter, right? That definitely was a fear of mine when I started my podcast over 200 episodes ago. Actually, it's like over 230 at this point. And I really had to neutralize that and keep going and find my voice and find my audience. And if nobody listened, I was totally fine with that. But of course, that wasn't the reality. It was just something I had to come to terms with myself to be able to keep going. So when we get to that point where we're feeling fear of that uncertainty, we do things like avoid risk, we delay starting, and we allow ourselves to be distracted by other tasks that seemingly are more important, right? So there are some myths about the creative flow, and I guess one of the things that I really want listeners and viewers to understand is that we can't wait to feel in the flow. We can't wait to feel like it's the perfect time. And many people wait for inspiration to come before they take action. But in reality, flow happens after you start. So most creators begin unsure. Those who are succeeding and continue to create realize that they're not going to begin sometimes an idea of what the end is actually going to look like. But momentum builds once you begin to work. And this is the thing about confidence too. We can't wait to feel confident before we proceed. That often that confidence comes in doing and knowing we can trust ourselves. So what are some of the actions that we can start to take to help unblock that invisible barrier? So we can start with breaking that bigger task down into smaller actions that we can take and we can reduce the friction for the entry point and make it like a ritual. Like for me, this podcast is a ritual. It happens every week. I have a system around it, and I kept going until I found that system and what feels like a comfortable shoe for me. So those are some things that you just have to do. You have to begin to create and do things, even though you might have fear, even though you might have uncertainty. And creating those smaller tasks from the bigger outcome that you want to achieve really help. Don't think I have to create something great, but just open the Canva file. Just open Canva. Just begin to do some research about maybe what you want to create, and just add a few words or ideas to something that you want to create. Let's say you want to create a new course. Let's say you want to create a new opt-in for your audience. Not sitting down thinking you're going to finish the entire task in one sitting, but creating one small piece. And one way that you can really help yourself stick to this is creating a time limit, which is 10 or 15 minutes, which is really helpful. I've done this to help myself declutter things like my garage or my office, and it feels really overwhelming. But if I say I'm just going to spend 10 minutes or 15 minutes on this task and that's it, and work until the timer runs out, that's really helpful. I don't have the pressure to finish or make it perfect, but momentum builds in that time that I dedicate to working on a task, and many times I actually continue working. But ultimately, one thing that we don't realize, that the hardest part about creating is actually just getting started. So that's something that many of us often really struggle with. So in closing, I think the really important things to remember are that confidence doesn't come from thinking, but about doing and actually taking action towards whatever goal or project that you want to accomplish. And that confidence also comes with repetition. I keep going back to the podcast example, but it's such a good example that I had so much lack of confidence in the beginning because I didn't know how it was going to be received. I hadn't found my voice. I hadn't found my audience. I didn't know if anybody would want to be a guest. I didn't know if anybody would want to listen. All of those doubts and uncertainty I had to put to the side and just focus on accomplishing sometimes one part of an episode at a time, not even a whole episode. I didn't allow those fears of uncertainty to hold me back. And so the barrier got smaller as I kept going, and then the creativity became more natural about the episodes that I would do. And then thankfully the guests just line up now. And so I didn't need to have the perfect idea. I didn't need to have the perfect plan. And I didn't even need to feel ready. I just needed to begin. So if there is a project in your business that you're trying to accomplish, maybe it's even starting your business, take that first step. Do the research on a business name. Do minor research on a logo, whatever it is, but make sure that you're lowering the bar to resistance. You're not expecting yourself to do it perfectly, but giving yourself something that you can change and make better. There can be future versions of. So flow definitely comes after that first step. So I want to invite you to connect with me at mombusinesscoach.com. If this resonated with you, if this was something that you needed to hear, I offer coaching sessions for mom entrepreneurs, but I also offer distance Reiki sessions for energetic blocks, which are absolutely a real thing. And then I want to invite you to share this with another mom entrepreneur that you think needs to hear this as well. And so I just want to remind you in closing that you absolutely don't have to be perfect to build something meaningful. You just have to be good enough to keep going. And that's really the number one thing. So thank you for joining me. I do a solo episode like this every other week. And then we have a new interview every Monday. So I hope you join us for that. And if you're not subscribed, be sure to do that. You can also check out episodes like this one over on our YouTube channel at Mom Business Coach. And then you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram at Mom Business Coach. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a great week.